from the $5 I used. So I'm going to manage billing account. There you see two tabs, my billing accounts and my projects. Go to my projects. This is the project I had selected in the project picker, right? This is the project I want to do this today's session, today's project in. So go to the action menu, the last column, the vertical ellipses, the three dots, vertical dots you see. Click that, and you should see the option change billing. So I'm going to change the billing and choose one of the most recently added, the last one from the billing account list. Now I'll go back to my billing accounts. Sorry, to the linked billing account, and I'll see how much credits I have left. So here we go. I just added and I have $5 left, which is great. This is what I wanted to do. Now I have $5 left in my current project that I want to use for today's implementation. Now, for folks who don't have any project, this is the first session you're attending in Code Vipassana or even in the season, or if you just want to create a brand new project because you want to keep that dedicated for MCP or A2A stuff, so that's totally fine. Click the project picker drop down, click the new project button on the top right corner. You should be able to provide a project name of your choice. Let's say something that's unique, right? It has to accept you. Let's say A2A or something like that. It will now, as you can see right here in the bottom line, it is giving me a project ID. So make sure you copy that project ID without any space or something from the noise around the project ID. Don't copy everything. Just copy the project ID without the dot in the end, and just save it somewhere because you will need it you probably will need it in today's implementation. So just save your project ID somewhere. It'll come in handy. And choose the billing account. Probably choose the last one in the list. That if you have multiple. If you have only one, great, just pick that. Location, just leave it as it is, don't change anything, and click the create button. It will take a few seconds and you'll get the project created. Once that is done, you're all set. Right now my project is created, so I'm going to select that and make that as my active project, CVS 10 A2A. That's it. So if I go to billing and see the credits, I should be able to see whether or not I have anything left in that project. So I showed you both ways, using an existing project and creating a new project. And in both, I have $5 left, so I can get started with this particular project right now. So that's pretty much it. If you still didn't follow or have questions, there is a link in the pinned message that has the link to the doc that details you step by step about how to redeem credits. I'm going to send that again to you right now, so you can go through that doc, the most recent link that I've sent to you in the chat right now, that tells you how to activate credits in case you're lost and blocked. So that's pretty much it. So I don't want to waste further time just setting up credits and stuff. We have a lot of good stuff going on here. And this is the first time, I think, in this throughout Code Vipassana seasons, that in the last session we have more than 100 developers attending. So kudos to you all, and thanks, Jack. I think your code lab just is so welcoming and so engaging that developers are joining in large numbers even in the last session. Over to you.
Awesome. Thank you for the intro, and we'll do a bit of an overview in the first before we dive into this. So if people are still running into trying to set up their credits, you've got a few more minutes. So don't worry. Let me just share out my screen, and I'll send the link to the code lab once more in case people don't have it. So there you go. All right. Perfect. All right. So yeah, thank you, Abhi. That was awesome. So yeah, a lot of the past sessions have been on agents, building them as applications, connecting them to databases. We're going to take it a little bit of a different route this time around. We're going to add in, oh yeah, do we want to start recording that? This is a good question.
Oh yeah, let me do that. Thank you for the reminder.
Yes, thank you.
Just give it a minute, Jack, because it will take a minute to get started, the recording. Sorry, I've clicked to start recording, but it will take a minute to start.
Sounds good. Bell, I think, makes a sound when it's good to go. I can get started soon. It's taking a little while.
It's not started yet. I'll let's just let you know it'll actually ding. You can hear the ding when it's starting to record. Okay, some folks will be removed. Jade, Komal, Surya Narayana, you might be removed because of a technical issue if once it starts recording, but feel free to join again. You can't just be on the call while it's starting to record, but you can always join back. Yeah, please join. Yeah, you can start.
Okay, perfect. Yes, as I was saying, the last few sessions have been, MCP toolbox for databases, really focusing on ADK and the framework. Today, we're going to take it kind of a step back or a step forward, depending on how you look at it. And we're going to look at the protocols. You might have seen these acronyms online everywhere, MCP and A2A. We're really going to try to take a step back and see how agents play nicely together, how they have access to the real world, to APIs through MCP, and then how they can actually access other agents through the agent-to-agent protocol. So we'll just quickly go over this a little bit. The diagram's a little small, but I'll zoom in on it so you can kind of see what we're working with here today. Okay, doesn't have to, just one reason. There we go. So here's what we're going to be building out in today's tutorial. The actual agent itself will be fairly straightforward so that we're not overcomplicating things and we're focusing on the key capabilities such as MCP and HOA. That's really what we're focusing on today. So we're going to be building a currency agent. Essentially, it's just an agent that is super good at converting money and currencies from one currency to the other and using the up-to-date exchange rates. And so we're going to be using the MCP client built into ADK. So we'll show you how to connect to an MCP server using ADK, which you might have seen in one of the past sessions. We'll build on that. And we're actually going to be building our own MCP server and deploying it to Cloud Run today. So we are going to go ahead and deploy an MCP server that has a tool called the Get Exchange Rate, and it's going to go and get live information on the current exchange rates. So actually calling an API in the moment, fetching out to the internet. And the little hot dog emoji here is actually the API that we're going to be using, which is the Frankfurter API. It gives you live access to exchange rates. So our MCP server will have a tool, Get Exchange Rate, and it's going to go ahead, fetch the live data on the exchange rate, and then we're going to go and use that in our agent. And then we're going to expose our agent using A2A, which is the agent-to-agent protocol. And what this does is it gives a way for our agent to be kind of run as a server so that other agents can it can say to other agents what it does, and other agents can then also call it. So again, we're going to get into all of this, but this is just kind of a brief overview of what we're going to cover in today's session. So the first protocol that we're going to get into and what we'll talk about is the model context protocol. So this is actually the protocol that was released by Anthropic. And this really standardizes how we can provide context to a large language model. And context is either resources, prompts, or tools. But normally when we're talking about MCP and like what we see out there being used the most right now is the tools aspect. So that's what we're going to cover in today's video. We're going to go over actually building a tool that gets exchange rate, that gets the current exchange rate. And MCP is great because in the past you'd be locked into one orchestration framework. So let's say I was using LangGraph. I would have to build custom tools for LangGraph. And then if I wanted to switch to use ADK, Agent Development Kit, I would then have to go and rewrite my functions or rewrite and convert my tools. And then also if I was in Python, I'd have to then write Java code or vice versa. So this is really where the strength of MCP comes in. You can write it once, deploy your MCP server, and then you can connect from different orchestration frameworks, from LangGraph, ADK, from different programming languages. So this is really the power. You can kind of switch your framework, you can switch your language, and still have your tools in place so that it's much more low lift to do that. So this is the power of MCP. And then I'm sure if you've been to past sessions, you are familiar with Agent Development Kit. This is the orchestration framework we're going to use that makes it super lightweight to build agents. And so we're going to build our currency agent using Agent Development Kit. And then finally, agent-to-agent protocol. So this is actually a protocol that Google released, but this week it was actually introduced to the Linux Foundation. So now it's owned by the Linux Foundation, which is awesome. So this is actually really cutting edge stuff. The agent-to-agent protocol is being worked on actively right now. It's still pretty early stages. So folks here, what you're learning is going to be used for a really long time. So you should be excited about that. And this is really cutting edge. So agent to agent, like we said, is how you can actually expose your agents so that other agents can call them, and there can be different frameworks. So you can actually go ahead and have our currency agent. You could have a different agent, like a travel agent. You could say, oh, I'm booking a trip. It's actually going to be in US dollars, and you could go ahead and convert that into euros into for your travel agent. You could call your currency agent, do the currency conversion. And then, you could have these different pieces talking together. They can be deployed in different frameworks. It makes it super extensible and interoperable. So here quickly, we'll just talk about what you'll learn in today's video. So we're gonna create a local MCP server. We'll run it locally. Then we'll actually go ahead and deploy it to Cloud Run. Cloud Run's a great spot to host MCP servers so that you don't have to run them all locally. You can deploy it once. You can have teammates connect to the same server. You can even open it up so that other folks can connect to your MCP server. And then we're going to go ahead and actually call that MCP server from our ADK agent, from our currency agent, and then expose it using A2A. So lots of good stuff. And yeah, you don't really need anything other than the setup that Abby went through, because we're going to do this all in Cloud Shell, which makes it super easy. So I'll just zoom out here as we get into the lab. All right, so now, show of hands, have people been able to set up their credits correctly? If you can just do a thumbs up. Okay, we've got some thumbs up. So yeah, well, this is now where we're gonna jump into the code. We're first just going to make sure that everything is set up in Cloud Shell. So you can go ahead and follow along and copy the first command, gcloud auth list. Gonna go ahead and open your kind of GCP console. You're gonna wanna make sure that your project up here in the top left is set to the project that you want to use for this tutorial. So I'm doing CV demo at 7. And then we're going to go ahead and open Cloud Shell. So up here in the top right, this little icon, we're going to go ahead and click on that. It's going to open up Cloud Shell. And this is where we'll do the majority of the actual commands. So we can go ahead and paste in that first command. This is just going to make sure that you're properly logged in. So make sure that the account you see on screen is the account that you want to be running this with. And we'll go back, we'll grab the next command, which is just going to list our project. So if you've already seen your project listed on the screen, that's good. If not, we're going to go ahead and just make sure we have access to it. So I only have access to this project CV demo 7. This is the one I want to use. If you see multiple here, and this next step is where you're going to make sure you set the proper one so that you are properly credentialed. So now we're going to go ahead and get this next command where we're going to set the project ID. So this is just making sure that it's set. You're going to need to update your project ID to the project ID that you copied earlier when Abby mentioned it. If you don't know where that is, you can go to here and just grab it from your console. So again, up here, you can click on your project picker and find the project that you want to run this tutorial with. Go ahead, copy the ID here on the right. Here, paste it in. And this is going to set that project ID as an environment variable because when we deploy to Cloud Run, etc., we're going to reuse project ID in several different commands. So just exporting it here saves us time later from having to copy and paste and continuously fill that in. So you should be able to go and run that, and you should see that it says updated your project. So now we're good to go. So if everyone followed along up until now, give some thumbs up. If we see a few, we'll continue onwards. Okay, perfect. So now we're just going to go ahead and enable the APIs required for this tutorial. Essentially, most of these are just Cloud Run and Cloud Build, as we are going to go ahead and deploy to Cloud Run. And then AI platform is where also required because we're going to be calling our ADK agent. We'll be using the Vertex AI Gemini models. So just go ahead and copy and paste that in. When you run this command, for projects that have just been set up within the last few minutes, you might see kind of a quota being mentioned. So if you do run into an issue with this command, running them all, just try running it a few times. Sometimes it only allows you to enable a few APIs within a short time frame. Maybe I didn't copy that over. Let's see. Might just be a bit slow. I might be running into the same thing I just mentioned. Okay, let me try running that again. We'll give it a second. It might take a minute. The last step is making sure you got Python 3.10. If you're following along in Cloud Shell, you don't actually have to worry about this. Cloud Shell by default, I believe, uses Python 3.12. This is more for if you were running this tutorial in your own terminal on your local machine. So we can continue onwards. Let's see, it's being a bit slow here. Okay, there we go. So yeah, you should get an operation successful command when you've successfully enabled the APIs. So now we're going to go and grab the code for this tutorial. It's just in my GitHub repository, so we're just going to go ahead and do a git clone. Cloud Shell already has git installed, so it should be pretty straightforward. So just copy this command here, and again, paste it in. Let me just clear this so it's easier for people to see. So yeah, we're just going to clone the code, and then this is going to cd. So you should see on the screen here, it should say that you are in the currency agent folder. That's where you want to be for the start of this tutorial, and making sure that you have all the commands that are running are in the right spot. The next one is we are going to go ahead and install UV. You can put a show of hands here or upvotes. People have used UV before? This is one of my favorite. Okay, and that's quite new for some people. Okay, so UV essentially is a Python project and package manager. So this is actually what I use in my own projects over pip. So if you've pip installed, UV replaces this, but it also replaces creating virtual environments. It will install Python versions for you. So it's a really nice tool, and it's super fast. If we take a look here, I'll zoom in for you. You can see that UV is built in Rust. So it is much faster than Poetry. It's kind of a competitor to Poetry, as well as pip. You can see it's like lightning fast, 10 to 100 times faster than pip. And again, we won't have to do any pip installs or any virtual environments because we're using UV. It does all of that for us. So really nice tool. I recommend checking it out if you're not familiar. It makes Python development so much faster, and once you start using it, you'll never go back. So we'll just go ahead and paste that command into here. Okay, awesome. It's installed. You might see a command that says you have to source UV. So if it says that, you'll want to just copy the command you see on screen to source this, or you can close the terminal and reopen it. But I recommend just running the source command. My Cloud Shell has already sourced it because I did this tutorial as a prep for this call. But if you see a source command, it'll be like source squiggly line /dot home, your account name, local bin. Copy that, run it, and then you should be good to go. If you don't do that, you'll see it like it says here, a UV not found error. So now we're going to set some environment variables. We're going to create a .env file. This is needed for ADK to be able to call the Gemini models because we're using Vertex AI. We can just set some environment variables that tells the SDK for Vertex AI where to look for calling these Gemini models. So you can see we're taking advantage of our environment variable project ID. We're setting use Vertex AI to true. You can also use ADK with Google AI Studio and an API key. But because we're deploying to Cloud Run, we're already going to be using the Google Cloud Platform. I'm just going to recommend using Vertex AI. If you're doing this outside of Google Cloud Platform, the Google AI Studio is probably the easier route. So go ahead and paste that in. Just clear this again so that you can. And if you want, afterwards, you can just do cat.env. That'll print your .env file. So you should see something like this. if you see something like this, you're set up and good to go. So you can see that we've successfully loaded our project ID from our environment variable. And again, you want to see all three of these set up. All right, so that's kind of the last setup piece. Is everyone still able to get to this point? Please throw an upvote if you're good to go. Okay, perfect, awesome. That's good so far. All right, now we get into the fun stuff. So now we've got the setup out of the way. Now we can actually focus on the protocols and on the technology that we're here to learn about today. And the first one is MCP. So we're gonna do our own MCP server. You might have used in the previous sessions, MCP Toolbox for databases, which is already an MCP server built for you. We're gonna actually go over why you wanna build an MCP server and do it ourselves. So for tools that you call often or tools that you want agents to be able to call in the outside world, for our case, we're gonna be calling an external API. So instead of having to call that from our code and actually wrap the code to call the API, we're just going to deploy it once as an MCP server, and then that way we could call it from our currency agent, we could call it from a separate agent, we could just call it directly and invoke the tool. So again, it goes back to we can deploy something once so that we can connect to it from anywhere, and that is really the beauty of MCP. It's the standardized protocol. Do it once, connect from anywhere, and we're going to be using fast MCP. So if you have not used fast MCP, it's just a Python package that makes building MCP servers super easy. They've got great docs. They're actually pulled into the MCP SDK for Python. So the actual MCP library uses fast MCP under the hood, and they've got some awesome stuff. It makes it super easy. So if you are trying to build a more complex use case afterwards, definitely recommend checking out fast MCP. Okay, so you already have the code. Because you clone the repo, you already have the code, but we'll just walk through it quickly. And this is in the MCP server.py file. So if you actually wanted to explore the code yourself, you could go ahead and open the Cloud Shell editor. And if you go and look, you'll look in the MCP server folder and server.py. So this is the actual code that we are going to be looking at. Let me just make that bigger for everybody. So FastMCP, by the name, if you've used Fast API, it's essentially kind of built on top of Fast API. It uses Fast API under the hood, and it's really trying to give kind of a similar framework. So as normally for Fast API, you would do like @ equals Fast API. You can see that for MCP or Fast MCP, it's the exact same syntax. So if you're familiar with Fast API, it makes building MCP servers with Fast MCP super easy. So the syntax is essentially you have a Python function. So we have a get exchange rate, and you can see it takes in a currency, the currency from. So what unit of currency we are converting from, which currency we're converting to, and the date, which defaults to the latest. So we always default to just grabbing the current currency rate for that exchange. And then, so Fast MCP, all you have to do to expose tools to your MCP server is this decorator, this Python decorator at mcp.tool. And that's going to head and wrap your Python function into an MCP tool that is exposed from the MCP server. One thing to note when you're building MCP tools and MCP servers, that doc strings are really important. So having tools that have very clear doc strings is really important because the actual LLM will get past these doc strings, and that's really how the LLMs know when to call this tool. So if you had a blank empty doc string here, your LLM would actually not really know that this is for get exchange rate. So that's one technique, is make sure you've got very detailed doc strings, and then you'll be good to go. So really all our tool is doing is making an API call to that Frankfurter API that we mentioned, which is the API that is able to do currency conversions. So this is an actual live API. You can call it from a curl request, but we're wrapping this into an MCP tool so that we can call it from our agents, call it from several different agents, different languages. And that's essentially it. And then to run the MCP server, you just do this mcp.run async. We're doing async to make it more speedy. There's also a .run that is non-async. And we are using the streamable HTTP transport. MCP has 3 different transports, one for local development or local MCP servers, which is STDIO, which is just standard input output. And then it's got FSE for remote or local, and streamable HTTP, which really has made things much easier because now you can do remote MCP servers, which we're going to do here, and actually deploy to Cloud Run. Previously with the STDIO, you had to actually have the MCP server running alongside your application. Now we can actually deploy this to Cloud Run and have a single MCP server. So I recommend checking that out. This is the latest kind of and greatest transport from MCP spec. So that's the code. Let's go back to our terminal, click the open terminal, and we'll actually go ahead and run this. So if you just scroll down, you'll copy this command. This is where normally you would have to activate a virtual environment, pip install fast MCP, but because we are using UV, it's going to go ahead and do that for us. So we should see that when we run this command. And you can see how fast that was. So we just created the virtual environment. We installed the 94 packages, and we're good to go. Don't worry about this this warning. This is just a warning from the MCP server and fast MCP itself about a WebSocket deprecation, but that's nothing to do with our code, so don't worry about it. So you can see the fast MCP server started on port 8080 using the streamable HTTP transport, and that'll be exposed at the /MCP endpoint. So streamable HTTP uses the /MCP endpoint. If you're using the other transports like SSE, it would be /SSE. Just something to note. So this is now running. So let's go ahead and actually test it out. So we're going to grab this second command. We have a test, just a quick Python script to actually go ahead and test it. If you want to look at the code, you don't have to do this. I will just take a look for you. The test server essentially is just using the fast MCP client and running essentially an API call against that endpoint. We just mentioned this /MCP endpoint that's running locally. And then we're listing the tools and we're calling the tools we have. And because we only have the one, it should print out get exchange rate. So what you're going to want to do here is leave this running. We don't want to stop the local server. So you're going to want to head it and open a new tab. Make sure you open a new tab. Don't exit your current one because it needs to be running. Oh, if you get UV not found, you're going to want to either close your terminal and restart, or you're going to source your bash RC. Oh, and before that, we want to make sure we go back into the current C directory. So make sure you run cd current C agent in the new terminal. And then paste the command in there, test server, and you should see an output like this. So we can see that we found our get exchange rate tool, and then we went ahead and called it for USD to Euro conversion. And we can see that we are actually getting the live in real time exchange rate. So 2025, 0626, that's today. For $1 would be US, would be 86 cents in euros. So we now tested it. We can see that our local MCP server works. So we're going to actually go ahead and go on to the next step, which is deploying it to Cloud Run and having a remote MCP server. So before we do that, head back over to where your local MCP server, the tab terminal where it's running, and just do Control-C. Just stop it because we're going to deploy this to Cloud Run. We don't want to have the local one running anymore. All right, I'll stop here for a second, show thumbs up. Have people been able to follow along? If you are seeing the UV thing again, there is closing the terminal and restarting it should work. It just, sometimes it takes that extra thing to source. Folks who have the thumbs down, yeah, hopefully you can write in the chat and people can help you out. Slowly keep moving along. Again, if you're running into issues with the UV not found, make sure you're either restarting the terminal or running the source command. Okay, so deploying your MCP server to Cloud Run. First off, why would we want to do that? There's multiple factors. Again, being able to share the centralized server is the big one. You can just deploy it once instead of having to have all your teammates run the same server. You can deploy to Cloud Run and have all your teammates, point your agents, point your applications at your single server. That way the code can be, if there's an update to the code, someone deploys a new tool, they just deploy it to Cloud Run, and then everybody who's connecting to it automatically gets advantage of that. Scalable. So if you're actually using this in a production application, you obviously probably can't run an MCP server right beside your application. You could maybe do it with multiple containers in Cloud Run, but you're not going to be able to run something on your local machine, right? It needs to be remote. So that's where Cloud Run comes into play. Scalable. If traffic comes in, it'll scale up, and it's free. It'll scale down to 0. So if it's not being used, you're not paying anything, which is awesome. And security. So security is big in MCP right now. Authentication got released in the last spec or 2 specs ago. It's kind of how can we do this securely? And Cloud Run has a lot of built-in security authentication for you. And we're going to go and show that today using the Cloud Run proxy and forcing authentication to our MCP server. So let's go ahead and copy the first command. We're going to go, let's just quickly clear this. So we're going to go ahead and CD into the MCP server folder. So this is where the code for the actual deployment is. And again, if you wanted to go into the editor, you can see the code, the Docker file is there. And we're going to go ahead and deploy from source. So we're going to go gcloud run deploy MCP server. We're going to call, this is our service name, MCP server, Cloud Run service. And then key thing to mention here is we're doing no allow unauthenticated. So this means our MCP server is not going to be public to the internet. So this means the one that I deploy, you can't just connect to it. And this is, again, one of those security things we just talked about. We don't want to just have anybody being able to call our MCP server. We want to actually authenticate to it. Let's go ahead and deploy that from source. Deploying that from source just means we're looking in the folder we're currently running in and deploying it. So if you see a prompt to say yes, just say yes. This is going to go ahead and create the artifact registry repository where it's going to upload our container to, and then our Cloud Run service will pull it from there. So this might take a minute or two. I'll talk a bit more about the authentication piece that we briefly covered and how it's important. Again, we don't want to allow just our API to be public to the open internet. We want to actually make sure that there are permissions in place so that people we give access to are able to run it. And one of the things that makes it super easy is the Cloud Run proxy. So we're going to run this. You'll see if we deploy this and tried to actually click on our link on the public internet, we'd get a 403 forbidden. But if we run the Cloud Run proxy in Cloud Shell, it's going to authenticate us for us and create that secure tunnel. So to do this, you do need the roles, the IAM role run.invoker. So if you head over to your project, keep that running. We'll go ahead and go to IAM and admin. See the principal that you're using for this demo. Owner permissions should be good enough, but just to be safe, we'll go ahead and add the Cloud Run invoker. So type in Cloud Run invoker and grant that permission. And we'll add one more permission here as well. We'll do the AI platform user. Oh, Vertex AI platform user. So this is Vertex AI user. Perfect. So these two roles, Cloud Run invoker, Vertex AI user. Again, if you do have the owner permissions, you should be fine without it. But for the sake of just showing, if you had more restricted permissions, you would want to give those to your user. So check that, make sure your user has those 3 permissions. Again, owner should be enough, but just to be safe. And our service is deploying still, so let's keep on kind of chatting. So yeah, the Cloud Run proxy is the next thing we're going to run. Again, this essentially what it does is when you say no allow authenticated to your Cloud Run service, it's going to look for an authorization header in the request, a bearer token, an OF2 token, that then says, here's who's connecting. And running the Cloud Run proxy locally does this for you. So you don't have to go ahead and fetch a token, add it to the header, and connect. Running the Cloud Run proxy does that all for you. It sets up a proxy running on your local host that then when you connect to the local host, it will grab that authentication, that OF2 token, and actually automatically put it into the header for you. we'll copy this next command over. Okay, perfect. So our deployment has worked. Just pull that up a bit for people in case you can't see. So this is now have your deployed Cloud Run service. You can go into the actual GCP console, and you should see your MCP server popping up, deployed to Cloud Run. And it should require authentication because, like we said, we had that flag to not allow unauthenticated requests. So let's go ahead and test that out. Let's go back to the terminal window where we did the test. So switch terminals here. We'll jump over here and just paste the Cloud Run proxy command. And you should see the message saying, the proxy has started on local 8080. So this is where the Cloud Run proxy is running, and it's forwarding all traffic, like we said, adding that authorization header to say, okay, Jack's connecting, he's allowed, he has that Cloud Run invoker IAM role, which will let him through. So now go back to our other terminal. We'll go ahead and run our test server command again. So that same command we did, the script to test the server, it's now going to be pointing at our remote server. So grab that command, head back over into the terminal, paste it in, and you should see successfully that you are, again, connecting to the server. And we actually want to let's verify that we're actually connecting to our remote server. So we'll go ahead and use this gcloud command, gcloud run logs. This allows you to query the Cloud Run service logs. So we should be able to see, if we run this, that we are connecting to the proper. Let me just clear this for you, make it obvious. Okay, I'm gonna change the one, I'm gonna put it as 5. Let's try 10 to see the actual logs. Okay, yeah, so you might have to change that to limit to 10. And you can see that our Cloud Run service got a tool request for get exchange rate, and it got a successful API response. It called our MCP server running in Cloud Run. So we'll take another stop here, show of hands or thumbs up. Are people understanding? Are people following along? Okay, we've got a few people might still be running into the UV problem. If you're running it on your local machine, make sure you change to the Windows command. But if you're in Cloud Shell, the command just pasting it in should work. So now we've actually got an MCP server deployed in Cloud Run. Might not seem like a lot, but this is kind of, how you would actually do things if you wanted to deploy something into production. You would want to have your MCP server actually being in a serverless environment like Cloud Run, so that when you deploy your agents into production, you can connect to that MCP server that's remote. Not, again, you don't want to be connecting to an MCP server running on someone's laptop somewhere. All right, so now let's move on to the actual agent piece. We'll be quick here, moving through the ADK because you have done this in the previous tutorials. The main focus here is ADK is really easy. It makes it this framework makes it really easy to get agents up and running. You really just need 3 things. That's your system instruction. So that's telling the agent what persona it's taking on, what is it supposed to do, and what not to do. So we're going to say, okay, you're a specialized agent assistant for currency conversions, and basically saying you have access to this get exchange rate tool to answer questions about exchange rates. If someone asks you something that's not related to exchange rates, just respond, you know what, I can't answer that. I can only answer things on exchange rate. It's really important for when you're doing these system instructions to be as specific as possible, telling the agent what it can do and what it can't do, and making sure that you give it clear instructions. The agent is only as good as its instructions. And then we're going to be using the Gemini 2.5 Flash model. That's the latest 2.5 Flash model. It's extremely fast. We don't need to be doing 2.5 Pro because we're not going to be doing any coding or any deep thinking. Again, this is a very small agent that just does currency conversion, so Flash is totally fine. And it's passing it system instructions. So we've got, again, I said there's 3 things when it comes to ADK. Instructions, model, so we chose our model, and now our tools. So this is where we actually tell the ADK agent to connect to our MCP server. And this is done in ADK through the MCP toolset class. And you choose the transport for MCP that you're using. Again, we deployed our MCP server using streamable HTTP. So we're going to use the streamable HTTP connection params. And then we just pass it the URL to our remote server. So this could be an environment variable, MCP server URL, but we're just going to set the default to localhost 8080/MCP. Again, this is connecting to the Cloud Run proxy that we have running. So since the Cloud Run proxy is running locally, we connect to that, and then that proxy is the authenticated connection to our Cloud Run service. So it might seem a bit strange to have localhost here, but it's actually connecting to our deployed Cloud Run service. We're just doing it the secure way using the Cloud Run proxy. So now we can grab UV run ADK web. We'll head back over to our terminal. We'll just clear that, and then you'll go ahead and paste that command in, UV run ADK web. This is going to spin up the web UI for ADK, which makes it super easy to play around with agents through a CLI interface, or not CLI, through a chat interface where we can just go ahead and ask questions. So give it a second to spin up. Again, UV kind of does that virtual environment management for you. So again, you don't have to be running any pip installs for ADK here. It's set in a PyProject .toml file. So you should see that it's successfully started up. It's going to start up on localhost 8000. To view this from our Cloud Shell, we're going to go over to the web preview. Don't click the preview on port 8080. ADK web preview is on 8000. So we're going to go change port, type in, and do change in preview. So this is what the ADK web looks like. Go ahead and choose your currency agent. So make sure in the top left you select currency agent, and then we will just copy over something like this, simple query to test. You can try this with different currencies here. We're just going to do Canadian to USD. Fun fact, I am Canadian, so. And we'll run our agent. We'll see. It's not going to be good, Canadian dollar to US dollar is not looking good these days. So we're going to take a hit. And then there we go. So we can see that our get exchange rate tool was called. So again, that's calling our MCP server deployed to Cloud Run through the Cloud Run proxy. And we're getting that answer in our agent saying 250 CAD is currently $182 USD. So again, this is a very small example. The agent doesn't actually do a whole lot, but what we're focusing on here is how it all comes together with MCP and A2A. So now we have our currency agent that calls our MCP server and actually calls an API on the public internet to go ahead and get a live currency conversion in real time. So you can go ahead and close the ADK web. You can play around and ask a few more questions, but we actually are done there. So again, show of hands, are people able to get ADK web running? And again, you can play around with different conversions. Most people probably. If you can't resolve application default credentials, just make sure you run the G-Cloud. Go back to the before you begin, make sure that you have the right principal authorized, or you can run G-Cloud run off application default and set your project, yeah. Okay, perfect. We will continue on. So now comes to agent-to-agent protocol. This is, again, a protocol that was just released, and it is brand new. So again, you're on the cusp here. Really, the way I like to explain agent-to-agent is it is what MCP is for tools. A2A is for agents. So really, MCP servers let you talk to your tools in a really standardized way. A2A lets you talk to other agents in a really standardized way. So again, it all kind of synergy comes in together. MCP is for tools, A2A is for agents. So on screen here, you can see we have on the left an agent development kit agent with running on Vertex AI, and it's able to talk to an agent that could be using any LLM. It could be using Anthropic models, it could be using OpenAI, it could be a Llama Index agent, it could be LangGraph. And this is where normally this would have been, in the past, extremely complicated to get working. Because we have these standard protocols, it gives us one way to do it, and then we can change things out. We can add other agents into the mix. It just really makes it super, super easy to get going. So let's go over agent to agent. Let's see how it actually works. So agent to agent kind of works in three ways. There's the discoverability. So essentially, agents have their skills, which is basically how they broadcast what tools an agent can do. Then they have their capabilities. This is broadcasting, hey, I can stream data, I can be using audio, I can be using text. So the capabilities is kind of the modalities, saying what can this agent perform? Can it stream? Can it just use text? Can it do video, audio, and broadcast that to other agents? Agent skills, again, is the tools. So we'll see in our example, we're going to broadcast that, or we have the skill of getting exchange rates. And it does these through agent cards. And agent cards is essentially when you deploy an A2A agent, it basically has a business card that is exposed and the other agents can see that say, hey, here's what I can do. It's almost like a resume. I thought about it too. Imagine you posted your resume online. You have your name. Hey, my name's Jack. Here are my skill set. You know, I can do Python. Not so great at Java. And then you have your authentication, which is kind of like how to reach you or how to make sure, you know, phone number, things like that, your URL. So again, you kind of just broadcast out what you are able to do. And other agents can then pull that in and say, okay, this agent's the currency agent. I know it can do exchange rates. I'm going to call it whenever I have some conversion that I need to do. So that's a very simple approach. Again, there's specifications for this. It's a lot to learn in a quick session, but we're going to try to move along pretty quickly here. You can really, again, this is new stuff. These libraries and protocols are being released, new versions every month. So make sure you're kept up to date. So the library we're going to be using in our code is the A2A Python SDK. Again, this is released about 2 months ago, I believe. So this is brand new, still getting updated. So there are breaking changes here and there, but if you pin to specific versions, you'll be safe. So now we'll walk into our currency agent. So agent skills, again, we talked about, it is how you broadcast your tools. So what tools does your agent have the ability to do? So for our example, we're basically going to say, we have this ID of get exchange rate, and then we say, okay, this is a currency exchange rate tool. Here's the description. We can give it some tags and some examples. The examples are really important because it kind of tells other agents that if they get a certain question, like what is exchange rate between USD and GBP, it's basically telling it that this is a great example of when to call this agent, when to call our currency agent, and that tool. And then here's what the agent card definition looks like in Python using the A2A Python agent card class. Essentially, again, you're just doing the name, description, the URL. It's going to pull in our port number and our host number in the code. If you check this out, you'll see we're setting those. And then again, here's the input mode. So our currency agent is only text. Doesn't really make sense for audio. I guess you could probably have audio if you wanted to ask it audio saying, can you convert? But for this example, we're just going to use text. And then we do have streaming. So we have enabled streaming on our agent. And then we set the skills. So let's move along. So how do we actually do this? How do we actually create the A2A server? We have our agent. How do we actually go ahead and run the server? So this is where Agent Executor is a class that if you're using ADK or you're using LangGraph, you'll want to subclass it. It's an abstract class. So we'll see here, we're creating our ADK Agent Executor. And this is where we wrap the kind of logic of how do we convert from the types that our ADK returns. So it returns like google.genai.types. How do we convert that to the standardized A2A types? So this code is just a small wrapper around the agent saying when you call it, do run async. And then we have process requests. So when a request comes into this agent, how do we convert between the GenAI types to A2A types? Again, this is all in the code. We're not going to go too deep into the actual code itself. But essentially what it's doing is it's taking in requests, the parts, and transforming them from ADK to A2A types. So it's doing a type conversion as if you were going from kind of integer to string, but on a bit of a more complicated scale. And then the final piece to know is that we are exposing our server using the A2A Fast API application. So this essentially, again, how we had Fast MCP, it used kind of the Fast API under the hood. A2A does something similar, where it kind of, if you're familiar with it's going to deploy your A2A server as kind of a fast API type server. And if you wanted to see this, again, this is all in the code. You'll go to the currency agent. The agent executor file has what we just talked about, all the converting parts. So you can check out the code there. And then main.py is where we actually set up the fast API application and set up the ADK runner. So if we're using a runner for ADK, this is how we set up, a runner that can run for multiple turns. We're just doing in memory. If you were deploying this to, say, Cloud Run or something, or Agent Engine, you could take advantage of the different services there. And this is also where we define the skills in our agent card. So let's go ahead and actually deploy the server using, again, UV. So head back to your terminal. Make sure you have the Cloud Run proxy still running. You're going to want that. Let's go ahead and shut down. This is just our ADK agent. We don't need the ADK web to be running anymore, so we're just going to shut it down. We don't actually need that to be running. Again, our A2A server knows how it's going to create the agent for us. We no longer need to use the web UI. So I'm just going to clear that so you can see. Go ahead and do UV run currency agent. This is going to, again, spin up that kind of A2A fast API application. You should see something like this. So we have our agent. It's loading our MCP tools from our MCP server, and then creating our currency agent. And then this is exposing it through A2A on localhost 10,000. So now we actually have our A2A server running on port 10,000. We can go ahead and test it out. So this is kind of the final piece. We're going to go ahead and take advantage of, again, the A2A Python SDK has a A2A client, similar to how Fast MCP had that client that we used to test it. We can do the same thing with A2A Python. And this is what you would do if you had multiple agents running. So in this, we're just using the client to call our agent. But if you had multiple agents also running, you would use A2A client to call one from the other. So very similar to what you would do if you had multiple agents. For this example, we're keeping it simple. We just have one agent, but we're using the client to go ahead and call it as if we were calling an API call. So you can explore the full code if you want. Again, it's in the test client.py in currency agent. It's just going to have multiple tests. So it has single turn where it just does something simple and returns it. It also has multi-step turns. So we're, excuse me, we're keeping something vague so that the agent has to kind of ask, did you want this in GBP to euros? We're just saying like convert $100. The agent will ask for more information and then we'll give it. So it does multi-turn and it also does streaming. So there's 3 different tests here: single turn, streaming, and multi-test. So if you're curious about those, definitely check it out. And how you actually initialize the client is you just call A2A client.get client from agent card URL and you pass it the agent URL. Since we're running it locally, this is just localhost 10,000. So copy the command here to test the client. You're going to want to do this in a third terminal. So this is the key here. A third terminal, we have one running our A2A server. We have one running the Cloud Run proxy so that we can authenticate to our MCP server in Cloud Run. And now we actually want to go ahead and create a third one. When you create it, make sure you get to the currency agent where the code is, so cd currency agent. Otherwise, you will get an error. So make sure you do that. And then just paste in the command here to run the test client. Sometimes I've been getting 503s on the very first request. We'll see if that happens. If you get a 503, yeah, there you go. For some reason, the very first request seems to struggle. I believe this is a bug, again, in the A2A Python SDK. It is brand new, so there are still some tweaks being made. But otherwise, there you go. So there we have it. That is the log messages successfully connecting to our agent. So it's connecting to our ADK agent through A2A on localhost 10,000. It's making a connection, and it's doing all those test cases we talked about. Single turn, it's getting the response, so you can see it's multiple parts. So right, you ask the question, you get a response back. So you kind of parse through this. We're just printing the raw JSON, but you can see we asked for the test, how much is 100 USD in Canadian? And the A2A server responded with 100 USD is $136 Canadian. If you want, you can look through the kind of streaming and the multi-turn requests as well to see how those work. And again, it's all in the code. For time's sake, we kind of went fast through this. But I believe this is probably the piece where you're going to screenshot and upload as the results of this lab for completion. So running this is kind of the last step. We've done MCP, we've done our agent, and now we've done exposing our agent through A2A, so that essentially you can just make an API call and actually connect to your agent through A2A. So I believe that is the final piece of this. I think if you head over, that's done. So I know that was a lot thrown at people. Thank you for braving through this. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for having me, Abby.
Jack, there are a couple of questions about repeated 503 even after.
Okay, yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, normally the 503, you need to make sure that you're doing it in a different terminal. So if you accidentally close the server and connected from like trying to run the test client from, if it's not running, you will get a 503 because it doesn't exist.
Cool. That was really impressive and concise, and also you still have 10-15 minutes more, Jack, in case you want to take questions. But before that, I just wanted to I wanted to thank you. This was really wonderful, and folks in the call today, I hope you were able to create the server successfully, and we're also able to test it with a client, because that is, I know doing the server part itself would have been like a big accomplishment because it's the first time probably I'm getting introduced to something like this. But using the client or testing it with the client is really important, because that's how the end users will be using the server that you expose. It's really powerful if you can create A2A MCP server, and then be able to test it out with a client, because that's how you'll get to know how not only you use it, or also how exactly it's getting consumed. And so we do with A2A so this thing as well, A2A client as well. So I hope this was useful. For result submission, there is you should have received in the instructions part itself in my email earlier today. You should have received that you have to submit step 4, the last screenshot in step 4. Let me just Jack, if you have your code lab handy, can you just share the?
Oh yeah, and I will mention too, if people are running into issues with the 503, it's most likely on the client. It's not probably on the server. So if I go back here, if you did get a 503, you can go to your terminal where your actual server is running. And if you see the response here, I think this is probably, if you're getting 503s, check the server. So this is where the client's running. If you're getting 503s from the client, you can go to the server, and you'll see the raw responses as well. So if you're running with issues with the client, you can submit. I'm sure the server piece shows that it's still running successfully. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think either or, if that works for you, Abby, because if people are running into 503s here,
Yeah.
you can still actually see that the server is working, even if you get a 503.
Yeah. Could you share go to the next tab, Jack, the code lab tab you have over.
Yep.
Go to step 4. So the result submission is basically of MCP servers. I know because this had a lot of components, I wanted to keep the submission simpler. So create
Oh, perfect. Okay.
So this last screenshot that you see, just
Down
that
here?
part, yeah, that part as an image, as a JPEG is what you have to submit in the screenshot. You would have received it on your terminal, so please submit that version. So this is what you submit for session 10 of session 7 of season 10. And that would be your final submission for the season. So totally 7 labs, and tomorrow is the last day to submit all of the 7 results. Tomorrow before midnight, which is midnight of 28th. So basically tomorrow, 27th, 11:59 p.m. is your cutoff to submit the results. And then for receiving certificates from GDG Cloud Code Cheating, you will get an email for that on 30th in the morning. So the whole day of 30th, you'll be able to access that site and download your certificates. And of course, the leaderboard and other things will be updated post that. Yes, IST. Tomorrow, 11:59 p.m. IST is the cutoff for submitting results. I mean, this season, all of you submitted till season six. I think, sorry, session six. I still see 1,200 submissions so far. So I'm confident that you had enough time to submit all the six so far. It's just one more session left. So that's today's session. You'll be able to submit that. And the reason I kept today's submission simpler is also because if you're getting to know the concepts of these things, it's still good enough. You have the lab, try it out. It's okay if you don't complete the second part of it, the A to A part of it. I know that's a lot because just getting to know agents in the season and then building an A to A server, it's all, I mean, A to A agent to agent framework client is all a lot in one season, but we still managed to cover it. So it's a great deal if you're able to even get your MCP server up and running and then hit it and get response. So yes, I would request you all to go and submit. And we have 5 more minutes. If you have any other pointers, if you want to bring that up, Jack, because we have another speaker. That's all. That's a lightning talk as well on the same lines. If you have something, you can share for 5 minutes, and then we can hand it over to him.
Yeah, I was just going to say, a lot of these projects are like A2A is all open source. So I recommend if people are interested in A2A, you can check out the GitHub repository. If you run into any issues, open them. We want feedback. It's all open source. We accept contributions. The folks over there are doing great jobs. So if this is something you're passionate about, again, it is kind of, it's brand new technology and new stuff being developed. If you want to get involved, I recommend checking out the GitHub. There's issues opened up and you can go ahead and even submit fixes. So if you want to be part of something that's open source, it's a great learning opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jack. Really appreciate your time. If you want to stay around for the next lightning talk as well, please feel free. We
Perfect.
we have Bhavishya Pandit. Bhavishya, if you're there, thank you so much. I know you were just recovering from I think you were under the weather for a little bit and you're just recovering, but still you accepted our invitation to speak, to be a guest speaker in our last session for the season. So over to you, Bhavishya. Folks, by your hands-on part is over, so you still have time if you want to catch up, ask questions in the chat. But yeah, Bhavishya will take over for a quick lightning talk. Are you there, Bhavishya?
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Abhirami. Thank you very much, Jack. Yes, I was not well. I was not under the weather. It was dengue. But yeah, nevertheless, hello everyone. Thank you very much for being here. And thank you again, Jack, for such an enlightening session. This session is a lightning session that I'd be taking, and it would be very crisp, very short, right? Like 15-ish minutes, right? Not more than that. And it would be around A2A protocol fundamentals and a prototype of an open source tool that I'm building, which maybe if you are interested, you would want to contribute. So I'll just quickly share my screen and I will get started. Can someone please confirm if my screen is visible? Great. Okay, yep. My screen is visible.
Yeah.
Cool. So I will, yes. So Jack talked about MCP, A2A, ADK and all of that. I'm sure you might have heard about it. Before I talk about what tool I have built, so I would want to walk you through like very briefly around different concepts of A2A protocol, and then the tool that I have built will make more sense to you. So the challenges of AI agents were that these agents were isolated, completely isolated, right? So it was like, in old age when, not in, in medieval age, back like 10,000 years ago when humans were disconnected, right? The same thing is with AI agents right now. They're disconnected. So let's say what agent that you have built and your friend has built, both of them are disconnected, right? there are different fragmented workflows, and let's say if you want to integrate your agent with your friend, the integration cost is high, right? People are using whatever framework that they want. There is very limited interoperability, right? So let's say you would want to add new tools and all of that, let's say all of those stuff, you'll have to add a lot of custom code, right? And again, a lot of dependencies are there. The last thing, from the standpoint of an enterprise, there is a very big vendor lock-in. So what does that mean? So let's say uh, your company, or let's say you, if you're a college student, has built an agent which is in Crew AI, right? So you would, let's say, want to move to Google ADK. So it is very difficult for you to migrate, right? And let's say initially, since Crew AI came first, right? So you built initial few of your agents in Crew AI, and then you saw that, okay, you saw the potential in Google ADK, and you wanted to build the rest of your agents of your workflow in Google ADK because of its capabilities, and how well-rounded solution it gives, especially when it comes to Google technologies. Even despite those capabilities, you would not be able to do it because you would rather think that how would my Crew AI agent interact with Google ADK agent, right? So all of these things were challenges. So let's say another framework out there is there, and still you would not be able to use it because of there is no interoperability. There is no way you can communicate, these agents can communicate, right? So that is why A2A came into the picture. So it was there to facilitate communication between different agents, right? So the first thing was to coordinated tasks, where you would basically, it would support complex tasks, long-running collaborations, delegation and teamwork, right? One more important aspect that was missing when people were developing agents, and of course that has been the case around since LLM applications have been coming into the picture, was security, right? So there was no secure stuff. Injections and all of that stuff was there. So ADK in some or the other way also enables you with trusted and controlled interactions through built-in security mechanisms, right? Yes, and because of A2A, there are capabilities of discoverability. So let's say your agents would not be in silos anymore, right? Your agents would be able to interact with other agents just the same way. Like if there is no internet, right? Is there a way where I can still communicate with you? Yes, maybe through SMS or maybe through calls and all of that, right? So when I was giving an example of 10,000 years where humans who are very distinct, who are living very distant in distant places, they would not be able to communicate with each other. The same happens with here as well, right? So this gives agents the capability to discover each other and interact with each other. If you see it from the standpoint of autonomy and building autonomous systems, this is extremely important because you cannot be writing custom codes to stitch two different agents, right? So there has to have a system or a bridge which is able to do that. MCP, Anthropic did it with MCP because they wanted to build systems in some or the other way. If you see it from the standpoint of building autonomous agents, you would want to have custom tools, right? Is there a common way to integrate tools with your agent, right? So that is how MCP did it, because how many tools would you or any framework would write code for, right? Let's say ADK, even if collaborators are there, how many custom tools, how many different tools would you have? So there has to have a common pathway for systems and frameworks to be able to interact with each other. For tools, you had MCP. For agents to communicate with each other, we have A2A. So we have few components of agent-to-agent protocol, right? We have agent car, tasks, messages, and interaction mechanisms. So we have JSON file, which basically helps in, which basically gives a detailed thing of what this agent is about. It is more or less your Aadhaar card for your agents, right? It also helps in agent discoverability, right? So when it comes to tasks, there is a unique ID that is given to every task, right? And it also gives the stateful context, like this particular task, what state it is in right now. So it has been just started, or is it about to finish? It is in the intermediate state, or it has finished, true, false, etc., right? So, and then messages and paths, we have conversational terms with content units, which enables rich communication. And then lastly, we have interaction mechanisms for communication and interoperability and security, right? So all of these things basically, when bundled together, they help agents to interact with each other, right? As I was saying earlier, there are agents which are being built. You and your hostel roommate has built two agents, but there is no way where they can interact with each other, right? You'll have to write custom code and etc. etc. So now A2A has come, right? Jack talked about building codes, building agents with ADK, MCP, and A2A. Okay, now we all are aware that A2A is there. Let's say going forward, all the agents that you would be building would be, bundled with A2A by default. But what about the agents that people have built all this while, right? They have been building agents for close to a year now, right? I mean, if I come to know that there are almost 1 million agents being built already, I would not be shocked, right? Because people have been investing so much efforts in developing LLM applications and agents. And when you see it from the standpoint of technologies, emerging technologies, right, code conversion is very difficult. You simply would not be able to convert your existing agents, which are compliant to A2A, right? Because of reasons like LLM is not trained on that. Second thing is, even if you use internet support, right? These frameworks are continuously evolving, right? So in a case like that, keeping them stable would also be another challenge. So that is why I built a tool which is like still in a prototype stage right now, but I'm planning to make it go open source, and that is Protomorph. So basically, what this tool does is this tool converts your existing agents to Google agent to agent protocols. So that what does that mean is you have developed 10 different agents, right? So in those 10 different agents, let's say you would want to convert them such that they're compliant to agent protocol. This tool will be able to help you, right? So all of the previous work that you have done, all of these previously developed agents, you would be able to make them compliant to agent protocol. So all you have to do is just give your API key over here, and it is pretty simple. You can either paste your code over here, or you can just simply go and this is one of those dummy agents that I had created for this very small demo of this for this lightning talk, right? So you can just go and upload this, and then it just converts your agent in such a way where it is compliant to A2A protocol. Now it takes some time because there are certain files that are being generated. I just uploaded one file, but it generated 6 files for me, right? Where you would have one init file just to treat it as a package Python module, and then you have a README file. So this is for, let's say, someone who is pretty new to it, right? How would they still be able to interact, right? How would they still be able to make sure that they are able to run their agents, right? So this converts everything, and you have your main.py file, you have your client.py file, right, where it generates your agent card, and all of that stuff is also there, taken care of. So you can go and then download your zip file, and you can also see the code that you have uploaded. And again, yeah, that is how to use Protomorph in general. So basically, this helps you, again, as I said, in converting your existing agents to make sure that they are compliant with agent-to-agent protocol. This is all cool, right? But there are certain limitations, and that is why there are certain future scopes that needs to be there. If I'll just show you again, right? We had over here source framework. So right now it supports only 3 frameworks over here, if you see, right? So what if there is a framework that is outside of these 3 frameworks, right? Just a hypothetical situation. Let's say there comes a framework which beats the popularity of all the existing frameworks. Just a hypothetical situation. Or let's say when agents were natively being introduced, you wanted to build applications without using any framework, out of your own curiosity, pure Python code, custom agents, then, right? So these edge cases are there, right? So where you would want to refine the solution even more. However, these are very small things. There are significant future scope opportunities that can be added to this tool. The first thing is auto detection of your framework, where you would not want to select, right? A good product is the one which understands things intelligently, and there are very less or limited human interventions or user interventions. Intelligence is being sold right now at an exponential rate, right? So auto detection of framework and then how those tools are being called, right? That thing is extremely going to be very helpful. The other thing is communication, right? How different agents would be able to communicate with each other even if they are of different frameworks. So, for example, as I was saying, that you and your hostel roommate is there, okay? And you have developed a framework, you have developed a system which is more or less in Crew AI, for example. And your friend is very enthusiastic. He built something which is around some system using Google ADK, let's say, right? And you have figured out a way where these two different agents have certain tasks in common, and you would want them to work together, right? Right now, there is no such way of doing that, right? There is no way for a Crew AI system to be able to communicate and interact with Google ADK, right? Unless there is some custom code and all of that stuff being written. So over here, this feature can be a future scope where such tools, such integrations can make sure that even if you have uploaded agents of different types, it will still work, right? The other thing is A2A is pretty new, MCP is pretty new. Leave everything, even LLMs is pretty new, right? For a lot of people, they don't even know the capabilities of what ChatGPT can or Gemini can do in general, right? So when we are in, you might be surrounded in a community of, let's say, 50 people, and you all are talking about agents and agent observability, security, and memory in agents and all of that stuff. You might be living in that bubble that, okay, the world is moving pretty fast, everyone knows everything, when that is not true, right? And these frameworks that you are using, they are also evolving, just like LangChain, Google ADK, right? ADK recently had a lot of releases. So whatever things or the prompts that you write, right, may change in future. So an autonomous synchronization of, let's say, new services have come, new features have come, or the way agent card is written has changed now for some reason, for example, right? So those things have to be automatically updated, right? The last thing is tool integrations. So one way of doing right now, how it is being done is there, based on the packages or the frameworks that you are using, how you are calling those tools, that's one way of doing it. But again, that thing is scattered, and that is exactly why MCP was being introduced, so that there is a one uniform way of, for agents to be able to, or LLM applications to be able to interact with tools in general, right? So MCP integration would be a big add-on over here. Now, apart from that, one last thing that I wanted to share was, there are certain ways where you can still optimize it, which I have already done in this tool, and that was around, so if there is very limited documentation, code conversion usually happens. So let's say you have a Java code and you want to convert it to Python. Just a simple example, right? Why do you think Gemini or GPT would be able to do it? Is because it is trained on that data already, right? When you are simply making an LLM call, this thing would not be true in this case, because what happens is, first of all, of course, your Gemini or any LLM is not trained on A2A until unless there is some web support, right? Now, even if there is internet support, you can call a tool, or you can make a deep research agent and then link it to your LLM application to build something like that. But still, since there are things which are changing at a very rapid rate for all of these Google frameworks, all the frameworks that Google is releasing, you do not know which aspect it would pick up, right? From which blog is that blog outdated? What version of ADK is it referring to, or A2A is it referring to? Or there are a lot of packages that people are building which are wrappers in such a way where it is maybe easier for people to understand and use A2A and these agent frameworks, etc., etc. So I was reading it the other day that Mark Cuban had once said that this is the age of automation of automations, right? So people are building wrappers on top of wrappers, etc., etc. So you do not know where is it referring and indexing it from, right? Where is it getting fetching that information from? So it would be one hard way of doing it. So that is why you would want to always refer the official documentations. However, there is a lot of information out there, and passing it all through the context uh, in the context might not be the best way of doing it, because there is very limited context window. So one way where I had optimized it, which I think I'm just sharing it so that in case you're building or working on any of your side projects and you have some context window limitations, you would be able to do it. So whenever we are giving certain prompts to LLM apps or LLMs in general, there is one way, there is one aspect of few shot prompts, right? So what you can do is, when you have automatically detected the framework, right, you would only give examples of only those only you would give examples of only those examples which are linked to that framework. So let's say if I've uploaded Crew AI, right? So rather than having a prompt, a single prompt, right, which has all the few short examples of LangChain, Crew AI, ADK, etc., etc., I would not do that. Rather, I would just identify, okay, if it is of Crew AI, then I would just append examples of only Crew AI, with tool, without tool, right? Simple A2A applications in Crew AI, how to build that, right? Or let's say, so there are different variants in this, and why this thing is very important is because you do not know what kind of an application or what kind of a code would the person upload, right? Is it a raw code? Is it in object or OOPS, in the proper OOPS format? Is it having class functions, etc., etc.? You do not know if it is just a simple agent or an agentic system. Is it a multi-agent system? Does it has is it, what framework it is? Is it having custom agent? Is it having tools, inbuilt tools of that framework only, or is that person using MCP? There are a lot of variations and possibilities out there, right? So saving your context window would be, being very frugal on that part would be very beneficial. So this is one of the fixes that I had incorporated, but still figuring out a few things for this. But yes, this was one idea which I wanted to share with all of you, and the tool that I've been working on lately. And if you have any questions, please do let me know. I was so excited to talk about this that I skipped my introduction as well, but nevertheless, if you have any questions, if you want to share your opinion, or if you would want to work with me on it, do let me know. I'd be more than happy to collaborate with all of you.
Thank you so much, Bhavishya. Thank you for sharing your idea that you're working on with the developers, and also have given a brief about how they can collaborate as well with you if required, or if they are interested. So feel free to share your LinkedIn channel in the chat in call messages. And also, folks, you can find Jack Witherspoon also in the LinkedIn, with his LinkedIn profile. In the speakers details in codevipassana.dev page, you should be able to find his LinkedIn page. So thank you so much, everybody, for sticking through the session, and also for submitting the result. And also, I see a lot of you have already submitted session 7's result as well. You have one more day. If you have not submitted any of those sessions, please use tomorrow to submit it and complete it if you're interested. In the leaderboard details as well, you will get all those details in your email, so watch out for that. Like I said, if you're interested, you can follow us on the site to see what is going on and what are the upcoming sessions and everything. But since you're already registered, hopefully you all have registered, you will continue to have all the details, anything that's new season that's coming up, and all those things in your inbox as and when we are ready to share that with you. But apart from that, if you are keen also in contributing, and also in knowing if there is any other one-off sessions we run in between seasons, we have a meetup group called Datapreneur Social. That is also like, it's free events, free sessions we run, but that's one-off. It's not part of the Code Vipassana season always. It's sometimes one-off sessions we run in between the seasons. The link have shared in the chat. Please join the meetup group as well. So you'll get to know of anything else that we are running. Or let's say Bhavisha ends up completing his idea and has a demo that he wants to share with you as to how he built it. He'll probably be one of our speakers. And we have a couple of folks from the community side who have used our season seven's learnings and have implemented a few things that are already also going to be published as upcoming sessions in the meetup group. So feel free to join that. And like always, Code Vipassana leads who are there in the call with us today have been thoroughly supportive as usual through the seasons and in this season as well. Once again, thank you so much, you all. There is no Code Vipassana without you all, without your support. So you have been instrumental in helping with the reach, and some of you are also participating in the. I mean, you also work out the labs, you submit results. Sometimes you go ahead and conduct these sessions in your own communities and groups, and you can also you have also been instrumental in being that representative, that authority in the community that is able to talk about everything that's latest and greatest in tech from what we share in Code Vipassana as well. So that is really the best part about our community leads. And yeah, you can find their details in, let me just share my screen. So this is our meetup group channel that you're seeing. So this is Datapreneur Social. And if you go to the Code Vipassana's page, you should be able to see meet the leads menu here, here, and you should be able to see the community leads here as well. This is their LinkedIn profile. You can directly talk to them. Ajo, Akash, Akshay, Anush, Arko, Bharat, Mahesh, Harshal, Karan, Kiran, Mohit, Mridula, Ruby, Sarvesh, Sakshi, Sneha, Subramanian, Vignesh. Thank you all thoroughly for your support. You will be receiving the email and the video and other details for today's submission session and the submission details in your email tomorrow, first thing in the morning tomorrow, or as then when the video is ready tonight, you will receive the email from me. So watch out for that. Completed, and tomorrow 11:59 p.m. is the last cutoff for submission of the season's results. I'm just repeating it so there is no confusion afterwards. Yeah, so connect with your leads, reach out to them, and also there is a Discord channel that you can interact with the leads, and also you can talk to us to have to ask any question about the previous sessions as well. Like you have, yeah, says from session 5 or any session in the past. If you have questions, please feel free to ask your questions there. We will be coming up with more detailed sessions like this. Recently, we also have launched, released Gemini CLI. I don't know how many of you got an opportunity to try that out, get your hands dirty with that, try out building applications using that. If not, there's a lot of free quota on that. Please go ahead and try it out. It's really promising. I had fun trying it out as well. So yeah, do that. Next season, we'll have a lot of deep dive sessions in continuation to what we have seen right now, but it will also be thematic. We'll have specific themes and interesting areas to talk about. Yeah. With that, I think we can close this session out 15 minutes early on. I just want to ask one last time, if you have anything to share in terms of feedback from how you felt, please feel free to unmute. Maybe we can take 2 or 3. I just want to hear about what you felt after this season. Do you feel competent enough to have learned something brand new from different from the monotonous things that you've been working on, or if you've been working on? So if there is anything like that to share, please do share now. If even after this, if you'd like to share with me offline, that is also fine. And another thing is the feedback form. So I'd be sending out the details and other things post the certificate details in this week mostly, or latest by Monday. Please submit your feedback on certain topics. It's not about, we generally don't take feedback about Code Vipassana sessions itself. The reason is this entire session is curated, or meaning, how to say, the format of the session is based on a specific theme, and there is no way we can change that in a big way. Like we can have minute cosmetic differences. Like last season, we tried out something with the video, but you expressed your thought that video is good for emails when we are self-paced, when we are learning self-paced, but for a session, it's always good to have the speakers run through the lab. So we heard you and we went back to the previous style of doing code vipassana session. So all that kind of feedback is okay, but otherwise, it is being designed around your interest to begin with. It was all your time. The time slot also was chosen by you. The kind of topics, we always choose the latest and greatest at that point of time. So every quarter you get the themes of what is new, whatever is new at that time. So whatever is new that Google's launching, or whatever is new in the world right now, technology wise, cloud wise, AI wise, you get to try it out hands on, which is the best part. And this is what the vision behind the initiative itself is, to bring latest and more greatest technology, modern world AI, and everything that's happening in the data and AI world firsthand to developers who don't always get an opportunity to work on everything that's new. Because I, for one, coming from a background of non-product companies in companies, even in the past, like as I when I initially began my career, I have worked as a software engineer throughout, but it's not always been product companies, which means that we prioritize what our customers build on. Which means if they say we want to stay in legacy systems, then we build in legacy systems for them. That means you don't get the creative liberty or innovative liberty to spend more time or to activate or use credits from your pocket to learn something all the time, right? So I have went through experience that myself in the early stages of my career when I really wanted to try out new stuff. Sometimes I would be stopped, I would be prevented from doing that because of all those limitations, which I felt is something that I can change for developers outside right now with the access that we have through Google, with the access that I have through Google, that I can bring out for developers in the community. So that is the vision and objective for this initiative itself. That's why it's free. That's why it's in a time that you all prefer, and that's why it's in a way that you really appreciate, and that's why the community is there to back us up, because they stand for you. They are doing this for nothing, right? Meaning, of course, they are learning a lot, they're gaining a lot of experience, they're getting a lot of exposure, showcase, and platform. But why are they doing that? Think about it, right? So that's why I appreciate the community, the leads that are supporting us, and I also appreciate you in joining us, because it's not easy. Everyone's working, everyone's having, you're probably waiting to have dinner, or your family is waiting for you to come get back to making dinner, or you want to prepare dinner for yourself and stuff like that. It's after work, you're all probably tired, but still you're investing in learning. Still you're invested in learning something from whatever we are trying to engage you in. That's why we want to make it useful for you, right? So that is the intention. And someone asked, what is the reason behind the name? Code Vipassana. So Vipassana is a practice which you all probably would have heard. I've not done Vipassana myself. I've done other yogic practices, some other yogic practices, but not necessarily Vipassana. But it stands for self reflective or introspective learning, or building, or growth. So there is a guru who talks, or who probably guides. You cannot speak, you cannot ask unnecessary questions. Basically, you cannot ask questions, as far as I know. I could be wrong. But yeah, you're basically introspectively learning, and you're listening for the most part, and you're trying it out trying it out during that time as you're listening. So that is the theme, right? You're listening. You're not able to speak or do any media work while the speakers are taking you through the lab hands-on. You use the chat only. The guideline is to use it only when you're blocked or you're not able to proceed. But otherwise, you're introspectively learning hands-on while the speaker is taking you through the steps. So that's why the name Vipassana, and it's called Code Vipassana, because it's all application and code driven. That's why. Free sessions, all the sessions are free. So yeah, they keep coming all the time. TechXConf, I don't think I am. I have not signed up for anything until IO Connect, because IO Connect is coming up, and a lot of prep work and other database related work that I'm invested in. Like throughout the day, I'm working on other things, like a lot in AlloyDB. If you go through the projects that I share sometimes on LinkedIn, you'll see the other side of the work that I'm doing. So you probably want to connect with those things. If you're interested, I can run some one-off sessions in the VTIP group as well. But I'll continue to share in writing. what I built and what will be useful for you as well in your career from a database perspective. So you can look at that as well. Yeah. Apart from that, if there's any question about code Vipassana.
I just wanted to share my LinkedIn again. Guys, I've just shared it now, so please give it a check.
Yeah,
Uh,
thanks, Bhavesh. Yeah, really
it's
appreciate
actually
it.
the first time that I'm sharing, but still, I just wanted to notify people just in case they're missing
Sure,
it.
you can pin it. You can pin that message.
Um,
Cool. You will receive your video, sorry, the video for this lab later. And let's catch up soon in another session, even between seasons. Next season will come up in the next quarter, which is Q3 of 2025. So stay tuned and please submit the feedback. So okay, I forgot to say what the feedback is about. The feedback is all about the technologies we have engaged with in this season, how it helps you, or what do you think of it? Like mainly three things: agent framework, databases, and sorry, what is that? ADK, Agent Development Kit. The databases that we have used and the queries with which you solved some agentic and generative AI queries or whatever we have written to achieve these applications only using SQL side. So how did you feel about that? And MCP toolbox for databases. We used MCP toolbox quite extensively, like 5 out of the 7 labs included MCP toolbox for databases in the design. So that will be one of the questions in the feedback. Another thing is the MCP server and A2A, the storage session. So the feedback will be about what you learn, not necessarily about the format itself, but your experience. If this helped you build something or in your learning journey or career journey, feel free to. There will be an open question thing as well, box as well, where you can enter that. So please feel free to share with us because this will help us design the next season for what is coming and what is already come in the recent last 1 week or so. Yeah, yeah. We just did talk about this in a little while ago, right? Gemini CLI, try it out. Like I said, it's a command line for using the Gemini app for your just like any other CLI. You've been using this G Cloud and other commands, right? Similarly, it's a CLI for your coding or productivity activities. Just try it out. It can. There's nothing that it cannot do, is what I would feel. Like building bootstrapping applications to, you don't even need the G Cloud commands anymore to. I mean, you will need it, but then I'm exaggerating, but then you can just use the CLI to bootstrap applications also, which means you don't have to click multiple buttons for it. Just bootstrap your applications. It's like having a code assistant handy enough to take care of the end-to-end aspects and connections of it. So that's what we really care about there. So try it out. Gemini CLI is free right now. There's a lot of free quota available. You would see the GitHub repository. It's an open source AI agent for building your um, from your developer terminal itself for building, not just building, it can generate multimedia, it can generate multimodal output as well. So try it out. It has 16 model requests per minute, 1000 model requests per day, and available free of charge as far as I can see. Don't quote me on it, but this is all I can see at the moment. But yeah, before it gets completely jam-packed by developers, try your hands on it. Yeah. Cool. Thank you, everybody. I'll stop the recording and then I'll get off the meeting. Thanks, Bhavishya, one more time. Really appreciate it. Thanks, leads.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.
I'll just unmute myself. I saw one question on how to become a Google developer expert in AI and ML. So, in order to become that, first of all, you need to be nominated by a Googler or an existing Google developer expert. So, in order to get nominated, you should have good amount of experience in the field that you're choosing to become a Google developer expert in. You should go out there, present your talks, be involved with the community, and like showcase your projects, your work, your tech prowess, and that's how you get nominated and you can become a Google developer expert. And You can join the Road to GDE programs by Google. Also, somebody has asked how can we join GDG groups. So you can go to the GDG website, just go to Google and search for GDG, and you will see the list of communities. There are multiple communities across different cities. There are GDG cloud groups as well. So you can join those, and there are lots of events that happen: DevFest, Cloud Community Days. Definitely attend those to expand your horizon within the tech communities. Mrityunjay, again, you can get a job in Google. Google doesn't really see what your degree is, but it sees your capability as a technologist. So definitely keep learning and upskilling and making projects and showcasing them. Maybe you can work at startups to build your profile or build your own cool projects and apply to Google. So you need to have a good profile which speaks for your credibility as a software engineer or as a technologist, and you can definitely get a job. And definitely you should strengthen your data structures and algorithms, practice on lead code, system design as well. So yeah, I think this is good. We can leave the call. Thank you so much, everyone.